Good evening, friends and family. There are obviously a few very important people here today, without whom very little of this would be possible. And the great thing is that as the evening progresses, most of us will get to spend more and more time talking with them. So please join me in a very special toast to the bar staff. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Joe, and unlike many of the best men you've probably encountered over the years, who are either old school friends or childhood friends of the groom, Chris and I actually met about 5 years ago when we started working at the same company. In fact, it's rather amazing that we've become such good friends, given the relatively few occasions back then they actually bothered to turn up. Now, introductions out of the way, now for some thank yous. On behalf of Chris, I'd like to thank the bridesmaids Angela, Mary and Laura, who all look amazing, and an extra special thank you to Nicole for being Flower Girl. I'd also like to thank the ushers Matthew and Andy for turning up sober. I know Chris had a dilemma when selecting a couple of guys to do the hugely difficult task of telling people where to sit. I've been asked to thank you all for the coming and the gifts that you've so generously donated. I must say I've struggled to decide what to get Chris. I wanted to give him something he genuinely needed, but it's such a struggle to figure out how to wrap a bath. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to thank Rachel, obviously the focus of everyone's attention today, who I'm sure you will agree is as graceful and beautiful as an angel. Rachel, you look like 1 in a million. Chris, you and I look like you were won in a raffle. I think every man, and maybe even some women in the room, will agree with me when I say that today is a sad, sad day for us all, knowing that a woman like Rachel is now off the market. And Chris looks okay, doesn't he? He's tried his best. But I also think that every lady in the room will also agree with me when I say that today's just really passed without a ripple. Some of you, incidentally, may have been surprised how calm and collected Chris has seemed today. He seemed to have avoided the wedding day jitters. However, that's probably because none of you saw him at 9 o'clock this morning, lying on his bed, with his mum rubbing his back trying to get him to eat some more sugar puffs. Before I formally begin Chrissy's character assassination, I thought I'd better get some clearance from Rachel. Unfortunately, I didn't think about doing this till 10 minutes ago. She advised me of my do's and don'ts. She said, don't mention ex-girlfriends, don't swear, no risky jokes, don't tell lies. That's me done now. So let's talk about Chris. I can honestly say in all the years I've known Chris, no one has ever questioned his intelligence. In fact, I've never heard anyone even mention it. I'll give you some examples. His mum tells me he was a slow starter. At play school he was different from all the other 5-year-olds. He was 11. I also remember one time we walked past McDonald's in Blackpool. There was a sign in the window saying, "Free Big Mac." I pointed this out to Chris and he said, "Why, what did he do?" While we're on the subject of Blackpool, as some of you are aware, that's where all us boys went for the stag do. The whole weekend we egged him on to take a ride in the big one. He was far too scared, saying it was old, rickety, and would make him feel sick. So Chris, I took the liberty of getting a phone number for you. Now, having not known Chris that long, I went to his brother Matt for some appropriate stories. Most of them I couldn't even write. They were too rude. But he told me about a time Chris was out in Newcastle a few years ago. The very first place he led everyone turned out to be a gay bar. And they didn't realise until the bouncers told him, "You don't look like the usual clientele in here." Chris just assumed they thought, "Oh, they don't think we're Geordies." I weren't until I went to the toilet. Well, I won't go into what happened there, but 10 minutes later, he came out walking like John Wayne.
Something come up, didn't it?
Everyone who knows Chris will know that no matter how down or bad a situation gets, he always has a fart joke or a witty comment to hand at the end of the story. He was also on hand to help out behind the bar at the Herbers Club back in the day, although his definition of bar management left a lot to be desired. His motto, as long as you can still pull a pint, it's all good, regardless of being able to stand up or open your eyes. And you can always rely on Chris to bring you something back from his nights out. Most people bring back the odd traffic horn, but Chris had to go one better. He was never satisfied unless he brought a complete set of working traffic lights back. You can also rely on Chris to take a stupid bet. I know that for sure, I've seen it. At one time he ate a pot of 8-month-old mustard, which gave him food poisoning, and he had to have 3 days off work. Believe me, he's capable of a lot worse. Chris is a big fan of boxing, and even dabbles in hitting a punch bag every now and again in what Chris refers to as his share of pain. And I stayed at Chris's last night and had a little look down there, and I tell you some of the stuff I found. I found this in there. And a good old tub of Vaseline. God only knows what he gets up to in there. But I'm going to finish up now. Some of you may know that Chris had met Rachel while we were all out celebrating my birthday 4 years ago, and they immediately got on like a house on fire, by which I mean I had to chuck a bucket of cold water over them. To be honest, I was quite surprised I hadn't met a lot sooner. Chris was often partial to sniffing around Debenham's lingerie section. I'm sure you'll all agree Chris needs Rachel in his life to help him with his simple things like interior design, because his idea of decorating always comes back to his idea of laminating the floor, polishing it so it can be turned into a big air hockey table. Obviously, being best man, I was with him last night. Spent much of the last month in his company chatting about how much of a good husband he'll be to Rachel. Last night as we were talking, I asked him what he wanted from marriage. He said, well, I want to be a model husband, I want to be a model citizen, and he added with a cheeky grin that he also wanted to be a model lover. And being the naive chap that I am, I looked up model in the dictionary and it says a small miniature replica of the real thing. Finally, some words of advice. Rachel, remember, men are like tiled floors. Lay them right first time and you can spend years walking over them. Chris, firstly set the ground rules, establish who's boss, and then do everything Rachel says. At this point I'd like Rachel to put your hand on the table, palm facing up. And then Chris, if you could put your hand on top of Rachel's. Savour that moment because it's the last time you'll have the upper hand in this relationship. Right, I'm coming to the end of my speech, I'm sure you'll all be pleased to hear, so in conclusion, some would say Chris has not had the easiest life, but since he's been with Rach, the drama factor in his life has calmed right down. It's finally nice to see a woman in his life he's prepared to listen to other than his mum. So just before I finish, I'd just like to say, I spent the last month worrying about this speech, but the point of it only came to me yesterday, and that is, nobody else could possibly stand where I am right now and feel more proud and honoured than me to be able to represent Chris on this, the most important day of his life. Webster's dictionary defines the word union as an agreement and conjunction of mind, spirit, will and affections. And I think of Chris and Rachel's marriage, I think of a creation of harmony between their intelligent minds, indelible spirits, and I look forward to being a part of their lives and having them both as part of mine for many years to come. On behalf of the wedding party, I'd like to thank you all for coming and sharing this wonderful occasion. I'd like to raise a glass to the bride and groom, please.
Bride and groom.
That's me done.
Not a joke.